of weird question I get a lot of times is, what book should I read? And the reason I say it's a weird question is, to me, that's kind of like wandering into Home Depot and looking around for tools and saying, what tool should I use? What's your project? What are you doing? So I want to start with, I was going to make this whole thing about how you could get more information out of a book and all that, and then I realized maybe I should start with, why should you read certain books, and how do you even know where to go about finding that information? I'm in Jack's kitchen while she's cooking. She's making some plant-based meal that she got out of Tom Brady 12, what's the other thing, purple carrot?
Purple carrot.
Purple
TB12.
carrot, TB12, purple carrot, tuberculosis part or something. I don't know. So she's making stuff. So in the background, if you hear cooking sounds, it's because Jack's cooking. For Vegemighty.com. Books are tools. Books are software. Books are something where you can use them to get something that you didn't have before. The very first thought about what kind of book you're going to read is, what do you want to solve? What are you working on? What kinds of projects are you trying to accomplish? And like I said, maybe you don't know right off the bat. Maybe you're thinking, I'm going to want to start a new job, so I'm going to need some new skills. That's where you start thinking about the project. Maybe you're thinking, business isn't going the way I want it to. Another reason to look for a different kind of book. Maybe you're thinking, I want to get started in this thing, so I want to find a book that's going to help me. That one's pretty straightforward, right? Or you might be saying, I just need a book to expand my mind a little beyond where it is right now. That's my favorite kind of reading, by the way, is when you really start thinking through totally different ideas that you don't otherwise have access to. Let's say you want to get better at sales. I would say read Anthony Iannarino's The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need. Good book, written by somebody I know and trust. So there you go, good book for it. But then what? How do you get the information out of the book that you need? So I'll walk you through how to get the most out of a book. The book I'll use for the example is not Anthony's book, just because I don't have a physical copy with me. This is Scrum, the Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. So let's start with what I just said. What problem am I trying to solve? I want to learn about what is there inside of Scrum that I can use and translate into marketing and business. Very similar to Scrum is something called Agile. You've seen the word used a lot in marketing. I think Scrum is very similar in that sense. My buddy Michael Vizdas turned me onto this. So I'm starting with a premise already of what do I want to get out of this book. So I'm looking for ideas that'll help business people and marketers, hidden inside a book that's technically for software people, even though the book will point out, even inside it, that it's not just for that. Now this is kind of interesting. I wanted to look around and find out a better way for taking notes. So I asked Mike Vardy some questions. I started looking around on the internet. Jacqueline said you should check out what Derek Sivers wrote about that. And I couldn't find any one definitive article on how to write great notes. So number one, I'm gonna write that article because I have a whole bunch of ideas. Two, I'm gonna share with you what I learned in my studies. So let's start with the real basics. Sure, we're in a digital world, but paper is still king. So having a paper notebook is really important. I'm gonna give you some ideas right out of the gate that will give you what to start with on how to arrange and organize your notebook. Now there's lots of ways to do this. I'm gonna give you ideas that I'm working on right now. Vardy gave me the idea, Mike Vardy, the productivityist, that on the left side, you keep it available for actions. So on the left side, you might write some things to remind you to do something. You're gonna write out your actions here, do this thing, right? On the right side, you do your notes. So I stole this out of some other book. They said, take the paper and add a sort of left margin to it. So about a third of the way in, let's say. So to the left is where you put keywords and major points, and to the right is where you put your full notes. So for instance, this is gonna be the one about Scrum. I'm gonna put Scrum at the top. And then on the left, I'll put concepts, and on the right, I'll put notes. Now, let me get you to the next part of this. So I wrote myself some notes on how to take notes. And the very first thing I wrote was, start with your own questions. What are you hoping that this time spent in the book is gonna answer for you, and leave some room for that. So for instance, I said, what was mine? How will I use this book to build business? Or what business examples can I get from this book? So I'm gonna put that as one of my first questions to ask. So the next question was, is there a core framework? Jacqueline said, you should check out what Derek Sivers talks about with regards to note-taking, because he did some work on note-taking and it was supposedly really good. So I was like, okay. So I went looking, and who knows if I found the right one or not, but I found two things that he said which were really, really eye-opening to me. So he said, first, I extract just the most essential and counterintuitive points. So right on the cover of this book, Scrum, it said something about how to do twice the work in half the time. Well, that's pretty counterintuitive. So I might start looking for what point are they making where I can start to understand this a little bit better because of that. Second, he said, then the hardest part was turning observations into advice. So let's say, I'm making this stuff up totally randomly, but let's say it says that in Scrum, it's always good to, I'm making it up as I go, so I'm making this up, Scrum people. It's always good to create your software once and then launch it and then do it again to see what you learn, right? So then I might say, okay, so what's the question there? The question is, or the most counterintuitive point. The point is, it's really important to create something twice. Then I might say that I have to turn it into advice. Create something twice because, or something, that's my advice. Finally, try to structure the notes more like questions where the important part of the note is the answer. So it's twice because this, right? That's what's gonna help you remember. So let's get into that just for a second. One really super important piece of advice about note-taking that I read in lots of different places was notes are useless if all you do is write them down. You must review them. You might even rewrite them. Jim Quick, who's a really popular memory master kind of guy, said that the best way to start learning something new is to follow the FAST method. And FAST was forget everything you already know about a topic. Forget your limitations. Forget everything you can forget ahead of learning this new thing. Action. Try to take your learning and put it into action as fast as you can. Try something in the learning. So if you were learning how to cook, you would probably want to take the action of, I think I'll learn how to make a risotto, right? Because then you can start somewhere, right? The third one, state. What state of mind are you in? If you are in an energetic state, then you're ready to learn. If you're tired, it's the end of the day, you're not ready to learn. A lot of times you schedule the time that you're gonna learn something new at the very end of your very busy day. You've done everything for the kids, you've done everything for the boss, everything's horrible customers. Now I'm ready to learn. Baloney, you're ready for the Real Housewives of New York. The last one is teach. Teach someone else. So I'm teaching you note-taking because I just learned it. So I'm gonna remember this better because I'm teaching you, sucker. I want to go through this whole thing in a recap. So first off, why even read the book in the first place? You've got to answer a question as to what it's going to solve for you. I'm trying to do this, and so I'm going to use this book. Next question is, what do I hope to get ahead of time from the experience? And ask questions at the very top. Second, third, I think, use a paper notebook. On the left side, put all your actions and things that come up as you're learning. On the right side, split it into a third. See that? Split it into a third where the first third is where you can use tags and context and put some stuff in there, and the second third is for all the note parts. Next, after you've got that laid out that way, you start with your own questions. What are you hoping that this will accomplish for you, etc. So put the very top of your set of notes, your questions that you hope you're reading through this book are gonna solve, so that you don't forget and you don't lose yourself in the book reading process. Then, Derek Sivers points. First, I extracted just the most essential and counterintuitive points. Then the hardest part was turning those observations into advice. So give yourself advice on the page. That's the note. The note is never just copying and underlining other people's quotes and crap like that. That just teaches you how to memorize someone else's quote. That's not what you want. Lastly, structure those notes more like questions where the important note is the answer. What does this really yield me? Here's the answer, right? That's how you're gonna get it. Then we gotta remember fast. You have to forget everything that you know ahead of time so that you're open for new ideas. You have to take action, meaning as you're learning this stuff and writing your notes, you have to plan little projects where you can take action on some of this stuff. Third is what state. What state are you in? What system are you ready for? Do you have enough energy to be learning this new stuff? And then fourth is teach. Go find some sucker and teach them what you're teaching. One last really important point about books. The table of contents isn't there just to tell you what page something is on. The table of contents gives you a sense of the flow of all this information. Studying the table of contents before you even bother to read the book is going to really help you understand what you're going to get in the book and understand how they're going to arrange their thoughts and what you might have to focus on in that process. Similarly, spend a little time in the index. I know this might blow your mind, but those are also there for a reason. They can also help you learn some stuff. And finally, one of the quotes that I'm most known for in the whole wide world is don't settle, don't finish crappy books. If you don't like what's on the menu, leave it. If you're on the wrong path, then get off it. The whole point is if the book isn't going to serve your needs, you are not obligated to finish the book. Jettison it, give it to someone else, donate it, give it to the library, put it in the laundry room. You saw that episode. Get the book out of your life and get into the book that you need. The book is there to serve you. It's a tool, and if the tool's not working, you're not in service of the tool, you're in service of your project. And so that's really important for you to know. And lastly, just to wrap this up, just to put a wrapper on this whole thing, use this information. Don't just read and then go on to the next thing. Remember fast. Remember to go out and teach it to someone else. Take action, put it into something else. Because otherwise, you're just reading books. Use them for the weapons that they are.